iHeartRadio app. Appreciate you checking out the show. Got a lot planned today. We're going to do our picks this afternoon in just a little bit. But first, I want to head out to the phones and welcome in. Of course, he's in the Clemson Ring of Honor. A very popular gentleman, Mr. Levon Kirkland. Levon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm holding it down, my friend. Getting closer to the holiday season. I hope that you're healthy this time of the year. And it's great that you'll make a little time for us today.
Yeah, man. I'm healthy. I did a lot of my shopping today, so I'm good to go.
All right. Well, I hope you got my list because,
I did.
All right.
Don't worry. It's coming.
I'm sure it is. All right, Levon. I wanted to ask you some football questions today, man. We're getting closer and closer to the ACC championship game with Clemson and Notre Dame. Did you like what the ACC did as far as basically giving Clemson and Notre Dame the week off beforehand instead of making them play a makeup game?
I think that these different conferences are doing what's best for them. I think it was a move to make sure that they have the best possible game they could possibly have, and maybe an opportunity to have Clemson and Notre Dame play in the playoff game as well.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing there, and we're kind of jockeying for position in the college football playoff. What are your thoughts on Ohio State at number 4 in the CFP rankings when they've only played 5 games?
Well, I know what it seems unfair, but I think that they're probably one of the better teams in the United States, in the country. I think they're the top 4 teams, so I can understand that. And like I said, business is business these days. I mean, these conferences are jockeying for position, and they're doing what they feel like is in their best interest. So I don't really have too much of a problem with the Ohio State being ranked that high.
So in your opinion, it's more about the eye test than what they've actually accomplished on the field?
Well, I think this year is so different because of the pandemic. So I think that's really, in fairness, the only way you can really judge the teams, like the teams that you think are what looks good to you. And I think maybe if Clemson loses against Notre Dame again, then Clemson probably won't be in the playoffs. But I think, that's what they're doing. They're looking at the eye test for that right now, and the eye test is holding up.
Yeah, it's just, and I've got some stuff I'm going to go over with that later on, but I wanted to get your opinion on that as well because, you've actually coached in the college ranks, and just your opinion on how that floated out. I've got a question for you about South Carolina with their new head coach, Shane Beamer. What did you think about the hire for the Gamecocks?
Well, I don't think it was a bad hire. Time will definitely tell. But you got a guy who's familiar with the program. You got a guy who's been in some big-time programs. And maybe he can bring some of that to the University of South Carolina. I think they did the right thing by going young, first and foremost. I think also Shane is going to bring a lot of energy to the program. So I don't think it was a bad hire, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see how the results are. But I think also South Carolina has to be patient with this hire, either because I think, if you want South Carolina to be on the upper echelon of teams, then you have to give them some time. You have to give them a little bit of time to get there. If you want him to be, 9 or 8 years, you probably judge him after 5 years. But if you want him to climb and to be the very best in the SEC, you have to give him a little bit more than 5 years.
And I think that's the thing, though, is that what is exactly the message to go with? I mean, as far as years go, I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, there really is no carbon cut, easy way to go.
Well, at one point in time, people thought it was. Hey, if you don't do it in 5 years, then maybe you should leave. But I think maybe don't do that. You kind of have to wait and see. There is some, like, if you look at the Dabo model, it took him a little while to build that team up. It took more than 5 years, that's for sure. It took them some getting bitten in the bud, getting blown out by West Virginia to really kind of get it right. So I think in South Carolina, I think you have to be patient.
Do you think that that's going to be the model now? And what I mean by that is that getting the young CEO type coach over the Muschamp Saban model. I mean, the disciplinarian type coach where, we're all going to go into a foxhole together and kill everyone that comes down here, that kind of mentality. You think we're moving away from the kind of the disciplinarian mode into the CEO mode of coaches is what's going to win nowadays?
Well, I wouldn't say that the Dabo model is not disciplinarian because their teams they've been very effective, very good on the field. A team that really doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes or get a whole lot of penalties. So I would say that the Dabo approach is also discipline. But yeah, should you go? Should the model be copied? Yeah, I mean that's what they always do. People always copy the model. I don't know if a disciplinarian model is just done. I think if you're going to have that model, then your coach better be a great coach, and he better be a coach that gets championship results, because that disciplinarian thing could turn on you if you're not successful. It's great if you're successful, but if you're not successful, then guys are not going to buy in no matter what model you use. Even in the Dabo model, if you're not successful, you're not winning championships, it doesn't matter.
That's a good point. Well, let me ask you this. We've got where it seems like a lot of players are opting out, or they're not you see it at different spots around the country where at the beginning of the season, hey, I'm just not going to play. I think it's going to get worse as we head to bowl season. Do you think that the pro scouts take that into account when they look at a guy and think, all right, maybe this guy isn't really a team guy. He's more about me than team?
Well, I think that's a trend. I think guys are more so thinking about themselves than really about the actual team. Will the scouts look at it? I think so, but then some scouts won't. It all depends on who the player is. I mean, the guy you guys had, South Carolina had the wide receiver. He opted, and he's a good player. The bottom line for the NFL is he good? But I mean, it sounds good to say character, but a lot of times they're going for a good player. Can he play? Can he make us better? If the answer is yes, they're going to dismiss all the leaving early part. They're going to say, well, hey, he's doing what's best for him.
Yeah, it's just something that I guess it just bothers me because, the whole commitment thing of, hey, I committed to play the full season and then, we're going to not play. And do you think we're going to see more of that heading into the bowl season? Because it came out yesterday with the athletics director, Ray Tanner. He did an interview last night and said, yeah, there's a good opportunity that South Carolina at 2-8 is going to be in a bowl game. They're going to have to suit up like people from the stands. I mean, they had like 50 kids play against Kentucky, something like that. I mean, that's something
tough
to think about, right?
It's real tough, but I think the trend is, like I said before, I think the trend is going that way. I think, especially in a pandemic, somebody's probably whispering a lot of those guys' ears that, hey, you don't need to practice anymore. This is a tough year. So I see it going that way, unfortunately, because in my day, we didn't do that, but we didn't have the opportunity to do that either. So I think guys are looking at it in a more of a professional manner and saying, what's best for me? I don't really care what's really best for the team. I care what's best for me, and they're going to do what's in their best interest.
I wonder if you could give us what you think the commentary would have been if you would have went to Danny Ford and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna opt out, coach, these last 2 games. See ya." That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
I think not only Danny, but my parents too, and my family, and my teammates, and everybody. It wouldn't have been a great move back then, but now. Like I said, these guys are looking out for themselves, and they're going to do what's in their very best interest. So I see this trend continually, especially if your team is really not that good. You're going to see a lot of guys like, you know what, I'm out of here. Or if they're not playing for the national championship, nah, I'm out of here. That's how it's going to go.
That's just sad, man. Absolutely sad. Well, Levon
Yeah,
Kirkland.
It's a change of the time, though.
Yeah, I get it, but I don't know, man. I guess I'm getting to the point where I'm like the old man on the lawn. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I don't like the designated hitter in baseball. And if you say you're going to play the full games in college football, you should play. It's a mess, man, on that front.
Yeah. If you're a fan of a certain team, you certainly don't like it because some of your best players are leaving and it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. And I don't really think it is right, to be honest with you. But they do have that option. So they're going to take that option. So whether we like it or not, that's just the way it is.
I wanted to get your thoughts, too, on the draft status of stuff with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it looks like he's going to be the number one player picked in the draft. Do you think that, and it's like an internet rumbling of, hey, maybe he doesn't want to play for the Jets. Do you think that he has the stones to do what the Mannings did and say, hey, I don't want to play there?
I don't think that's the case because I think Archie, when Eli was coming up, he just didn't want his kid to go through what he did when he was with the Saints. I think Trevor really, he has more to lose not to leave, to be honest with you. I think that you're going to be the number one player, so are you going to leave that money on the table like that? I don't think that's a good move. You already won a national championship. You're not going to improve your stock at all. So, and it doesn't really matter if you wait this year or next year or however it is, you're still going to a bad team.
Yeah, but come on now. It's not the Jets, though, man. You know the Jets are terrible.
The Cleveland Browns were terrible a couple of years ago, too, right?
Yeah, but
they were terrible.
Good point.
They were terrible. They were real terrible. And even last year, they were like, oh, my God, they were bad then. And even though they had some talent, you just got to – if you're the owner, you got to cut ties with the coach. You got to cut ties with the GM. And what you got to do is you got to surround Trevor with some players, especially at that left tackle. You got to make sure he's protected, and then you can build around him. Because I think Trevor is a once in a while talent. I mean, he's just a guy that doesn't come around every year. So I don't really think it's in his best interest to stay in Clemson.
Well, we'll see how that shakes out. And I got a question for you about some running backs. You know, Travis Etienne made the Doak Walker Award list. South Carolina fans upset that Kevin Harris leads the SEC in rushing yards, if I remember correctly. But he is not on that Doak Walker list. Do you think players actually care about that stuff?
Yeah, they care. They sure do.
Yeah, but do you think
you want to win awards too?
Yeah, but do you think that? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
But do you think that they have a legitimate gripe that he should be on that list?
I don't see why not. I mean, I thought the kid was good. I thought he played real well.
Yep.
It's not up to me to make that decision. And you got to also look. The record kind of has a play in it too, and the reputation has a play in it also. Etienne's been around for a while. This kid's really. He might have been around for a while, but he's really bursting into the scenes right now. And then the problem is he played for a bad team. So that's probably why he's not getting the recognition he should get. But I looked at the kid almost every time they played. I thought he was a really good player. I really did. I mean, I think he's worthy of it. So I can understand some of the South Carolina fans being a little upset. But you know how these things go, man. They're just kind of political in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I thought that Kevin Harris was one of the hidden gems around the country. You watch him play, and he's a vicious running back. I mean, just the way he hits the hole, and even if it's you drag him down. You think you drag him down for a yard loss. He ends up making it a 2-yard gain. So
But who sees them?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Like, who sees them besides South Carolina fans and guys like myself that live in South Carolina and just like watching ball? Who else sees them?
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
Yeah.
Quick question for you about the Clemson Notre Dame game. I don't know if Clemson is going to be able to have James Skalski back, the middle linebacker there for Clemson. Of course, Levon Kirkland joining us here on the rundown this afternoon. We appreciate his time. With Clemson heading into that matchup, though, if they have a healthy James Skalski, what does that bring to the defense?
Well, I think it just brings order to the defense because he's a guy who makes all the calls. But other than that, when your leader is out there, you feel comfortable. You feel better. As a defensive lineman, you feel better when your middle linebacker is there because you know what he brings to the table. And you know that he's going to put you in the right position. But then also, you don't feel like you have to be Superman and make plays. You're just doing your job. And that's why, it's always good to have depth, man, but you always want those starters to be in there. And you want those starters to get most of the reps because you're just more comfortable with them. And quite frankly, they're the better player. So Southkey being in that game really helps Clemson as a defense. It's not saying that Notre Dame can't still do their thing, but for the Clemson perspective, you're happy he's in there. And not only him, but I really think Tyler Davis is the guy that you want in there too, because he wasn't there the last time, and it really shows. It really shows. So you want Tyler Davis in there as well as Skalski.
That was my next thing, man, is having those two back on that side of the ball, I think makes a huge difference for the Clemson Tigers. Levon Kirkland joining us here on the rundown, man. Hey, as always, I appreciate it. My final question to you, because I know I don't. Do you consider yourself? I know you play with several teams in the pros, but you consider yourself a Steeler, right?
Yeah, because I played with those guys for 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, what a heck of a start for the Steelers. They started 11-0, and then they just finally dropped their first game. How tough is it to go on that kind of a winning streak in the NFL?
It's extremely tough.
Yeah.
But the mistake that the casual fan makes is they think that one team is really bad and the other teams are just really good. The records may show a difference, but they're all professionals. They all got good players. The talent level is really not that much of a difference. There are probably other factors that are in there. But when you play 3 games in 12 days, I don't care who you are. You're going to get tired. You're going to get beat down. You're not going to have the energy that you normally have during a regular week. So I think that was a factor with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But even if you don't put that into play, just a regular season, it's tough. It's tough to go undefeated because, for example, Cincinnati played us tougher than anybody else on their schedule. And Cincinnati were not good teams, but they still had some guys who can play. And you let them get the momentum, and you let them get going. I mean, things can happen. So although you look at the records, they're not, the talent level is really not that different. It really isn't.
All right, Levon Kirkland joining us here on the rundown. Levon, hey, man, thanks for joining us on the show, buddy. I hope you have a good holiday.
Thank you so much. Anytime you need me, I'm with you.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Levon Kirkland joining us here on the rundown. We appreciate him. Next week, working on getting former South Carolina quarterback Corey Jenkins on the show. And I got some other guests that I am plotting to bring to you here on the rundown. We've got several other things we're going to get into today. Some comments that were made earlier today I want to bring to you about Ohio State being in the top 4. We'll get into that. And then I have a conspiracy theory on the college football playoff that it's something that they're hiding that they don't really want you to know about. We'll talk about that and a lot more in just a moment. You are listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Walter, I'm streaming all kinds of good stuff to this channel, man. Calm down with all that, man. I've got Corey Jenkins next week, and I've got some more Gamecock folks that I'm in the mix to come chat with us. We're going to talk about the what have I got next? Indiana and Ohio State. We're going to talk about the college football playoffs dirty secret, and I've also got my picks coming up for the weekend. So we'll give that all to you in just a moment. All right, hold on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Shout out to the folks watching on YouTube. Addison, Thrills Mills, also T-Paws. Thanks for checking us out. Jonathan. Of course, you can call in the show today at 803-978. 1-832-803-978. 1-832. You know, we asked Levon Kirkland a little bit ago about his thoughts on Ohio State at number 4. Yeah, I pulled some numbers today. Indiana is in the same division as Ohio State. Yes, they lost to Ohio State by 7 at Ohio State. Okay, wrap your head around that for a second. They went into the Horseshoe and lost by 7 points to Ohio State. This is Indiana now. Remember, Indiana's a basketball school. Half the time, people don't realize they have a football team unless they're waiting in line for basketball tickets. They went in as a basketball school to the Horseshoe and lost by 7 points. Yeah, there's that. They have more conference wins this season than Ohio State does. They lead, technically, the division. But for some reason, they have 6 conference wins. Ohio State has 5 conference wins. Yes, they won the head-to-head, but they won more games. And they're being told, nah, you don't, it doesn't matter. You don't get a chance to play for the Big Ten championship game. Go sit down. Basketball season's underway. Be nice. That's basically what they're being told as far as Indiana goes. And it is sad. It really is sad. So I have a couple of comments here on the Rich Eisen show. Coach Dabo Sweeney made an appearance, and this is what he said about Ohio State being in the top 4.
You know, it's almost like, you got to have 120 hours to get a business degree, and but yet, you know, these people over here only need 60 hours to get a business degree. I think, you know, anytime you step in between the lines in the game of football, there's a lot that can happen. A lot. I mean, heck, we in 2017 we lost to a 3-win or 4-win Syracuse team and still went to the playoffs. You know, so anything can happen. Guys can get hurt. There's a lot, and so I think the fact that we're going to have 11 games, you know, as well as the SEC teams. I mean, you look at Florida and Texas A&M and Alabama. I mean, these teams are going to have 11 games in this year. It's incredible, and you know, I think the Big Ten, I think, had the same opportunity, and they chose not to play. And I think the only reason they ended up playing is because of the leadership of the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12, and have demonstrated that we could do it and do it in a safe way. And it's been an unbelievably challenging season, that's for sure. But I think that the committee's going to have some tough questions to answer and things like that, regardless of what they do. And obviously, as coaches, we don't control any of that stuff. So I do think that our team has played incredibly well. We had a double overtime loss at the number 2 team in the country now, Notre Dame. It was a great team and an unbelievable game. And again, no matter what happens for Notre Dame or Clemson, nothing changes in my mind as far as both of these teams being in the top 4.
Okay, first of all, Ohio State doesn't belong in the top 4, but someone needs to explain to Coach Dabo Swinney, if you lose to Notre Dame next Saturday, you don't belong in the top 4 either. Now, I know that people are going to be like, well, but they played more games. Doesn't matter. If you've lost 2 straight games to the same team, you can't go and play in the playoff with them. Here's what I do know. I do know that right now, if I were on the CFP committee, my big thing is that I would be throwing up roadblocks against Ohio State. Texas A&M deserves to be there over Ohio State just by their resume. Someone's going to lose between Florida and Alabama. Alabama's heavily favored. I think the early line is 14 points. I get that. But let's just say that everything's going to go by what Las Vegas says, and Alabama is going to beat Florida. Florida will have 2 losses on the season. One to, of course, Texas A&M on the road by, a field goal, and then you'll have a loss to Alabama in the SEC championship game. I think that eliminates Florida from the running, period. Now, Texas A&M, yes, they're sitting at home. I get that. But they're sitting at home with, a 9-1 record. Their only loss is a 28-point loss to Alabama. Now, I do think this. I think if Notre Dame loses to Clemson by, say, a field goal, Notre Dame has more of a right to be in the college football playoff than Texas A&M does, who lost by 28 points to Alabama. So, with that, if we go by what Las Vegas is saying, I still think your top 3 are Alabama would be number 1. Clemson would probably be number 2 if they win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame would drop to 3. And then if you're going to go by what is right and not the lies and crap that the 4-letter network throws at you, you would put Texas A&M right into the mix. Simple as that. The idea that Ohio State belongs is simply based on the fact that you've got a bunch of people that went to Northwestern or to Syracuse that have these great big degrees, and they think that, I saw this team beat my team. And they think the Big Ten has a voice right now. The Big Ten lost their voice when they chose not to do what the SEC and the ACC did at the beginning of the season. We'll have more on that in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Hey, Bob, I appreciate that, man. It's really frustrating because we're constantly told Ohio State has to be there. They don't have to be there. That is the biggest pile of crap I've ever seen in my life. Just stop. Anyway, if you guys want to respond, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I can't play any music on YouTube because YouTube will pull the video. So I've got stuff going on over here, but I can't play any of it. So that's why you guys, it's kind of silent during the breaks. I'll talk to you, but as far as playing music, I can't do that because then YouTube sends us these nice little letters of, you can't air that, even though my station pays ASCAP fees and I technically can. Anyway, they don't know that. So Bob, you're an Alabama fan. That's cool. Alabama's the number 1 team in the country, and until someone beats them, it's kind of hard to go against that. Devontae Smith should be in the Heisman Trophy conversation, by the way, but we have the Heisman voters are so set on having a quarterback or a running back that they won't even look at a wide receiver. Devontae Smith is the best offensive player in college football. He won't even get a virtual invite. They won't even send him the Zoom meeting invite so that he can be there for the virtual Heisman race because they're too stupid to look at wide receivers. The people that run the Heisman voting thing, it's disgusting what they do. It's really sad. Really sad. All right, here we go. Good. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us today, respond to what we were talking about earlier. Now I'm going to give you the college football playoffs dirty little secret. Now I know you're looking at me and you're saying, what? There's a dirty little secret with the college football playoff? Yeah, I have it for you. And I had my friend David sent me this, and I looked into it, and he's right. So I want to thank David on the air for this. But here's something that's interesting. We are being shoved, of course, the Ohio State sandwich down our throat by the 4-letter networks. That, yeah, Ohio State is great. Why don't we look at it from this perspective? There's a Power 5 team out there right now that is 5-0. They're going to go to their conference championship game. It's very simple. That team is Southern Cal. If Southern Cal beats UCLA this week and Washington next week in the Pac-12 championship game, they'll be the conference champion and 6-0. You know where Southern Cal is in the current college football rankings? They're 15th. They are the dirty secret that no one wants to talk about. I don't want to hear this mess of, but Ohio State. It has nothing to do with that. It's supposed to be what you do on the field. Okay? Not how good you look. What you do on the field is what is supposed to matter. Now, I'm not lobbying for Southern Cal to be there because they haven't played enough games either. But I'm giving you this because it's the hypocrisy that we're being fed, that Ohio State at 6 wins, they didn't win. In theory, they didn't even win their division. Okay? Indiana won more games than they did. But we're still being told Ohio State is number 4. But at number 15, you're going to have a Power 5 team that in theory is going to be undefeated, a conference champion, and they may not even crack the top 10. If you don't think that there's something out there that Ohio State has over somebody, I have no clue what it is. I would love to know what it is. Now, if you're going to tell me, oh, well, they have this and they have that, you know what? They have not proven it. You can have all these great players and a great coach and all of that, but if you don't prove it, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. A perfect example of this was last season. The Alabama Crimson Tide had the number 2 ranked roster in the country, number 1 ranked coach in the country. First round quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa playing in the Mississippi State game. They're up 35 points. He rolls out to his left like he always does, ends up tripping, however it ends up, injures himself, destroys his hip, and it ends up costing Alabama down the line a little bit. Oh, Alabama was a great team last year. But you know what? Alabama had to go out on the field and prove it. And you can make the argument that if they had Tagovailoa all season and he was healthy, I don't know if they beat LSU or not. I'm just saying they're a different Alabama team with Tagovailoa on the team. And that's what we should be looking at. The perspective of what you actually do in between the lines instead of, oh, they look hot, let's just put them out there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you'd like to join us here on The Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. We've got a slew of games we're going to pick this weekend against the spread. By the way, last weekend against the spread, I looked at it. I was 14-6 in 20 games. You know what? I'm pretty happy about that. Considering the week before, I was like 6-14. 14-6. Pretty good. We'll see how I do this weekend. I'll give you my picks after we finish up our next break here. Also, I've got some basketball notes we'll get into today as well. Let's head out to the phones. And good afternoon. Welcome to The Rundown. Oh, all right. Maybe they'll call us back. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to respond to what we talked about on The Rundown here today. My case against Ohio State. They've got one ranked win on the season, and that is against Indiana, the team that is technically ahead of them in their division. But Southern Cal, another Power 5 team, it's not going to work. They're 15th in the latest rankings. Maybe they forget about the Pac-12. I don't know. It's supposed to be the jewel of the Pac-12 this year was Oregon. Oregon fell flat against Oregon State. But then, it's a mess either way. Let's try it again here. Out to the phones. Good afternoon. Welcome to The Rundown.
Good afternoon, Rob. It's Ray. How are you doing this afternoon?
Ray, what's up, man? How are you?
You know what? I'm going to tell you, you got me seeing the same way that you're seeing, and I think a lot of other people are coming to this as well. But the Big Ten, you got to look at the whole totality of their commissioner back in July saying, we're going to shut it down. We're not going to play just a week before they said they were going to play. And it's like they knew the Pac-12 would follow, step and follow what they were saying.
Right.
And it's like, I felt like that commissioner in the Big Ten was saying, well, we're going to show you dumb Okies and Texans and Southern rednecks and everybody else. You're just not smart. You don't know what you're doing. It was like they thought we were going to follow with them, and don't you kind of see my drift?
Yeah, I think, it's basically, hey, you dumb hillbillies, you guys are going to play football, and we're not going to be dumb hillbillies like you, and we're going to laugh at you when you all get the COVID. And the SEC commissioner and the ACC commissioner basically said, oh, really? We've got doctors down here, too, that have told us that, hey, if you do it correctly, you can make it work. And have there been challenges? Yes, there have been challenges. But you know what? You have to give credit to the SEC and the ACC and even the Big 12 for getting their seasons in and getting them pretty much complete.
Yeah, and Rob, I was just going to add, and if you look at those three conferences that made wise decisions, and they gave themselves plenty enough time to make up some games if they needed. And if you look at the games that really were to be played, I guess you can say, I bet you at least 85-90% of those games took place. So,
yeah. Well, and I
think we had the right idea.
Right, I think so on that. And like the SEC did some interesting things where they moved, like Missouri's the perfect example of this. Missouri was supposed to play some team. I can't remember who it was. That team ended up having COVID issues. There was another team that Mizzou was supposed to play later on. They both had the same bye week. They plugged that team in there. I believe it was Vanderbilt. And they were able to get that game in. They were fluid on their feet, and they were able to make this happen. And so kudos to them. And this should be a lesson to the Big Ten Conference, which, by the way, the athletic directors, presidents, and all that, if they don't fire Kevin Warren at the end of the season, January 1st, whenever the fiscal year ends, then they're just asking to bask in the stupidity that he is. They want to be looked upon as dummies. So I don't feel sorry for them if that happens, but they should fire him on the spot. But the key that may get him there is when they look at Ohio State and say, you played a half a season, sorry.
Exactly. Well, that's what I wanted to say, but thanks a lot, Rob. Appreciate your show, sir.
Thanks, man. Have a great day. All right, so we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our picks for the weekend. Here on The Rundown, you're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I hold in my hands all of the picks for this weekend. We'll see how I do. Anybody got a lock over there in the chat room they want to share? No? Nothing that you're looking at and you're like, man, I really like this game? Thank you. I was going to get it in a minute. No one has a lock over there? Come on, man. Y'all got to have a lock in the chat room. What's up with that? I know, right? You're like 4 feet from it. If you'd have missed, we'd have kicked you out. All right. Cale Wilson joining me in studio today. He wants to do radio eventually. So he's coming in to see how I do it, which may not be, the way he ends up doing it, but you never know. Savage college football, yeah. Did Minnesota and Nebraska get canceled? I think they did, didn't they? You check that for me?
Yeah, I got you.
Northwestern Ohio State, that's later on. Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, Army Navy. There we go.
It has not been canceled. It's still going on.
Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Final segment of the show today. That means it's time for, as I put my headset back on here, my time for my picks of the week. We'll take this call first. And good afternoon. Welcome to the Rundown. Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you? Oh, hold on. What's
Let
up?
everybody know.
What you got, man?
I'm going to tell you, Clemson is going to beat Notre Dame by 13.
Well, the line is at 7.5. So yeah, if you're going to bet against or bet with Clemson, then you would be right. There you go. If they can cover it.
I like what Skowski, man. I just hope he's in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a big part for that Clemson defense. And as Levon Kirkland said earlier, it boils down to having Tyler Davis as well. So yeah, big thing there.
Absolutely. Good point by Mr. Kirkland.
Yep.
Very good player for our Tigers back in the day.
Yeah, he was a heck of a player. Did a lot of
Awesome.
an All-American linebacker. So yeah, good stuff from him.
Absolutely. Hey, appreciate it.
All right, bud. Have a great day.
Double O out.
All right, there you go. Appreciate Double O calling the program. All right, here's our picks for the weekend. Game tonight, Arizona State at Arizona. I don't know if this is like the battle for the cactus or whatever it is they call it. But Arizona State is an 8-point favorite to open. Arizona is terrible. So give me Arizona State. I'll take them to get the win. Wake at Louisville. Scott Satterfield basically, I guess he's trying to get himself a raise, was talking about, yeah, I don't want to come to South Carolina. I don't think anybody wanted you here, Mr. Satterfield. Just so you know. I don't know, like, maybe you had somebody called out from down the hall, but I don't know for sure, but just a thought. Anyway, Scott Satterfield's going to be at Louisville. Louisville's a 4-point favorite. Give me Wake Forest to get the outright win. Coach Clausen is outstanding up there. Duke and Forfeit State will play tomorrow. If Forfeit State doesn't give up the game in the morning at, they're supposed to play at 4 o'clock tomorrow? If by noon, if that game is still on the docket, I would be shocked. But look for Duke to win that game outright, as Forfeit State doesn't want to play anymore. So that's just kind of the way it is down there in Tallahassee right now. A once proud program is in the toilet. Coastal Carolina and Troy. Coastal Carolina is a 15-point favorite in this matchup. Troy gets blown out a lot. Normally, I would say Coastal would, or Troy is one of those teams that when you look at them, their defense is really bad. And Coastal may be coming off of the high there. I think Coastal wins by 25. Troy is a disaster. So give me Coastal Carolina minus 15. All right, other picks for the weekend. Stanford and Oregon State. With this game, I think they're really close. I'll go with the smart kids and take Stanford minus 4. Texas and Kansas. Boy, Les Miles, another guy that's just fallen out of the rafters. This guy won a national title with LSU, and then what does he get? He's up there eating grass in Kansas, and they're terrible. Mark, what's his name? Tom Herman is going to be trying to put up a huge number there. And I think that they're going to blow them out on the road. It may be the last game that Les Miles gets to coach. Look for Texas. I'll give up the 31. Don't have a problem with that. That game did get canceled. My Kale's giving me the Kale Wilson joining me in studio. Savage College Football. The game got canceled. I didn't know that. It's still showing up that you can bet on. Hopefully no one bets on it. I didn't know it got canceled. COVID's killing my picks. If they did play, Texas would win by 35. There you go. Let's see here. Other games. Alabama and Arkansas. Alabama's a 31-point favorite. It's how much does Nick Saban want to score? I think that's pretty much what it boils down to. But you know what? I don't think Nick Saban cares about this game. And what I mean by that is that he can win by however much he wants, but I don't know if he's going to keep his foot on the gas here. So 31 points is a lot of points. Now, I'm not saying Arkansas is better. I'm just saying that Alabama may not care. They're not going to be jacked for this game like they were with LSU, where they wanted to go and pop the Tigers in their mouth because of the way they talked last season. I think that Alabama is going to win this game, but it's going to be by 28 points. So take Arkansas and roll with the 31. Here's my lock of the week. Georgia and Missouri. Georgia's the 13-point favorite in this matchup. Georgia has nothing to play for. This game reeks of whatever bowl it is where they played Texas. I think, was it the Sugar Bowl? I can't remember. Where they ended up getting popped by Texas. Even though that Texas team wasn't nearly as good as they are, Eli Drinkowitz has them on fire up at Mizzou. Mizzou has a quarterback in Connor Bazelak that you need to learn his name because he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. They also have Larry Roundtree, who's one of the best running backs in the SEC that you probably haven't heard much about. The only problem that I have with Mizzou right now is that their best player, who's going to play on Sundays, is Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is not going to play because of a ridiculous targeting call last week. And what does that entail? He can't play the first half. The line is at 13. I think Georgia wins, but it's going to be by about 3 points up at Mizzou. And don't be shocked if Mizzou doesn't come home with the win against a Georgia team that, let's be honest, They don't even want to be getting up early to go play this game. A game at high noon tomorrow. It's 11 o'clock in the morning there at Mizzou. They're not going to be wanting to play this game. And trust me, Mizzou does. Mizzou wants to beat the snot out of everyone they play. Mizzou will definitely cover. That's my lock. Roll with the Como Tigers there. Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a 14-point underdog at home. I don't know if these guys are behind Jeremy Pruitt or not. Give me Vanderbilt to cover. And you know what? If Vanderbilt wins, it's good for college football. Just saying. Let the smart kids win one there too. So give me Vanderbilt. Michigan State and Penn State. Penn State's a 13-point favorite. Roll with Penn State. They're getting right at the end of the season. LSU and Florida. Florida's a 23-point favorite. They can put up whatever they want. And LSU right now is on fire. So give me Florida to cover. North Carolina and Miami, kind of the big game of the weekend. North Carolina is going to put up points on Miami. I think North Carolina wins this game outright. So take the Tar Heels and get the 3 points. Virginia and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a 3-point favorite in a battle for the Commonwealth Cup. Better team is Virginia. They will win their second straight after losing 17 straight in the series. Roll with Virginia. Final game, Navy and Army. One of my favorite games on the season. I want to be one of those people that goes, well, they think they rotate. They play it like at FedEx Field, and then they play it at whatever stadium that the Eagles play in. This year, they're playing it actually at West Point. And I think that even though I did my time as a Coast Guardsman, which most people will tell you, the Coast Guard is part of the Navy. It's just the part that doesn't swim. I like Army to win this game. Army by 4 is the opener. It's already up to 8.5. And teams that can run the ball do very well against Navy. So give me Army to win over Navy. So there's my picks for the weekend. We will save these, and we will have full picks for everything else next weekend. But we'll evaluate those on Monday. Don't forget, Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk is next. He is the czar of Clemson Sports. Be sure to follow him at Clemson Sports Talk. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. My full picks and the interview with Levon Kirkland will be up on the podcast by 5 o'clock today. Listen at your leisure throughout the weekend. It's like DVR on the radio. So don't forget to check that out. I'm also on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. I'll be tweeting out, especially tomorrow during the North Carolina-Miami game. I'll be watching that. Clemson basketball this weekend. They play at Alabama. That game is also tomorrow. More of the rundown on Monday. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400.